The Bristol Model project is an innovative project that puts students at the heart of the university's civic mission. It shifts the perception of what's possible during a student's degree.
I'm delighted to see so many people from different backgrounds. We're here today to talk about the Bristol Model. It started through a conversation between the Youth Services Division of Bristol City Council and the Professional Liaison Network.
The Faculty of Arts, Law and Social Sciences Professional Liaison Network, or PLN, has a long history of connecting students with external organisations to develop professional skills. And what was unique about its Bristol Model scheme was how it enabled students to undertake co-produced academic research.
The Bristol Model is about applying social sciences outside the university to try and develop insights that can benefit organisations from across the city.
Building on a successful project with Bristol City Council, looking at resilience in the city's Youth Services Division, the PLN developed further partnerships with government, NGOs and third sector organisations. In each case, undergraduate students helped to design the research, supported by research associates and led by leading academics.
The academics were really keen that we weren't just learning from them, but we were feeding very directly into the project.
Education is often imagined to be something that simply happens in classroom over 3 years, and then people go off and get jobs. Well, in the city of Bristol, as with many other cities, we've got tens of thousands of students, many of whom would, I think, be extraordinarily useful and interested in researching alongside activist groups, social movements, third sector organisations.
I think it's a big issue in social sciences degrees that there aren't really those opportunities for real world engagement, and it's something that I was very passionate about when I came to uni.
Talking to the students who are involved in this project is some of the most transformative experiences of their entire time at university are going to be had in this context of working as part of a team, also working in a way that's reasonably non-hierarchical with academic colleagues as part of a collective effort.
Quartet funds community organisations and has a grassroots approach to funding. My role in the project was as a student research intern, looking at the impact of Quartet's funding on actual community organisations themselves, and then the wider impact that funding is having on the communities that those organisations are based in.
We embarked on this project so that we as a funder can understand better what it is that we should be funding. We had a research associate based with the project who was the day-to-day academic liaison.
We wanted to have case studies representing different areas of Bristol that have lost huge amounts of statutory and private sector funding for projects in those areas.
The students pulled out a framework around things like funding, the organisational structure, how its strategy fits with its mission and how it engages with the community. And these elements were all found to be really important in how resilient an organisation might be.
Once we'd done the interviews, we had to actually process the data. That took the form of a report. Our primary finding was grassroots, trust-based, long-term focus funding was far more impactful for those organisations. In my degree, everything I was doing, all the skills I was using was always qualitative. It was always writing essays, reading books, reading articles. It was very difficult and very intimidating at first. Having this opportunity was a really important experience to have.
The Institute for the Future of Work is a think tank that works around future work practices, including the impact of automation and AI, things like well-being at work, and generally all issues at how people will be doing work over the next 10, 20, 30 years.
The Institute was founded with a mission to build a fairer future of better work, and we do that through bringing the latest academic evidence to bear on policy-making processes. It was exciting to have the chance to do some research that was place-based and embedded and bring our own capabilities in making sure that that spoke to the powers that be thereafter.
The project was initially looking at the connection between work futures and voting behaviours particularly, and how that was associated with the risk of automation. But I think that what we found when we started talking to people in Bristol, and in St Philip's Marsh in particular, was that actually they were much less concerned with the risk of automation and much more concerned with the real threat of their work being changed by the redevelopment of the city. We were able to bring in a really diverse range of research techniques, as well as interviews. We had a lot of freedom to develop our own ideas. We ended up producing a podcast, and so we not only interviewed academics and people from the council, but we also went out and did a lot of vox pop recording on the streets. I was also given an opportunity to go to the Houses of Parliament to go and actually see the presentation of a part of the report that we worked on at the APPG for the Future of Work. Seeing the work that we had fed into and the conversations that we'd actually had with people in Bristol reflected in that environment was a pretty special thing.
The university and Wellspring came together to try and develop new insights through analysing the data that Wellspring holds on all of its service users. The value of long-term relationships that service users build with Wellspring Settlement over time.
We were going to look at interactions in the community and how these would be captured by this huge database that the Wellspring Settlement had. It had like 20 years of records, actually working with real data created by real flawed humans, and we had to completely reshape the nature of the research proposal, the nature of the outputs that we intended on creating, is seeing how all of that is intimately tied to the social context. The fact they don't have the money to do it in a certain way is not ever discussed in applied quantitative research methods. That's where that data comes from, fundamentally. I was such a stubborn economist before. I thought that things were basically only of worth if you could make a graph about them. It really forced me to open up my perspective to real human data and how that is just as important as graphs and numbers and things.
What makes the Bristol model a success is trusting the students to take the responsibility to act not simply as students, but as researchers.
Undergraduates rarely get a chance to look under the hood of academic research. They don't get a chance to see how this research, which they're being taught about, really comes to life and where it comes from.
I would had to have worked that day and a half anyway. I could do that in research and gain professional experience.
Being physically involved in this research myself made me understand the importance of having academic research that is actually rooted in people's real lives.
I now work for an international NGO. Developing my research skills in that setting gave me the confidence to push forward a load of research work in my own organisation.
When the data suggests things that we should be doing differently, we're very happy to adjust and make changes. So that constant flow of ideas and the impact of these reports has been huge for us.
I think we need to see the learning journey not just being about assessments and end results in that way, but a slower, more qualitative process of getting involved in research and being active in that.
It is a knowledge exchange. There was learning both ways. It has definitely given us an appetite to work more with student communities as part of the academic partnerships that we have, and we've been talking to a number of different departments around how we could make that happen.
It's not enough for academics to carry on writing papers for each other in journals that nobody ever reads. This kind of Bristol model research, I think, is a way of paying out a different idea of what the university might be.